hopefully we'll see a lot more. I know you're busy. So, good evening, fellow members of Toastmasters. No guests this evening. This evening I would like to share with you one of my many adventures in life. This is my adventure in Cyprus. About 21 years ago, when I was engaged to be married, I knew I was going to be learning in Kollel. Kollel member has two siddharim, 2 periods of time during the day where he is sitting and learning. I needed something flexible. I needed to be able to earn a livelihood somehow. So I said to myself, yes, self, you need a job that has flexible hours that you can do between the siddharim, that you can do late at night, you can do on your own schedule. I said to myself, sounds to me like Cyprus. Cyprus would be a good idea. So I said, what's the problem? Cyprus. I have great artistic talents. I used to draw, as all my teenage friends can tell you, I used to draw comic books, and I even sold a couple of paintings. I have artistic ability. I said to myself, how hard could it be? I then thought to myself, what do I need to be a sofer? You need a pen, you need paper, in this case cloth, and you need to sit down and write. How hard could it be? Boy, did I find out I was wrong. When I first sat down to write, I discovered that there are so many ways that a person can can assume that things are going to be easy, and all of a sudden you find out that they're incredibly complex. First of all, I discovered that the kulmus, now, unfortunately I forgot to bring one with me, the pen of the sofer is called the kulmus. The kulmus is a very difficult thing to make. It doesn't come prepackaged. It doesn't come ready-made. You have to sit down and learn how to whittle it. It has various angles, it has various sides. You have to learn how to make it in order for the writing to come out smooth and in order for the ink to flow like it's supposed to. Then I discovered that when we were in high school, we learned to hold the pen in such a ferociously tensious-ful way that it was awful. It became an incredible, stress-filled, unhappy period of life in order to learn to finally hold the pen like you're supposed to. The greatest of Sofrim, let me illustrate. The greatest of Sofrim hold their pen in a way which is so free of tension. Right? You hold it in a way like this, where your fingers are at a bow. The best of Sofrim hold it so lightly that you could just pull it right out of their hand while they're writing, and as if there was nothing. That's how light they hold it. So when you hold it like that, it becomes tension-free, it becomes easy, it becomes much better. Another thing I discovered about the kulmus is that you have to learn a lot of eye-hand coordination. If you think about it, the largest of writing in Cyprus is 1 centimeter tall. But if you write something as small as tefillin, it's about 1.5 millimeters tall, each and every letter. So you have to learn how to micromanage your fingers, how to micromanage the movements that you do in order to write properly. In addition to that, number 2 is the posture that you sit at. When you're sitting at a regular table like this, and you're sitting in a regular chair, you lean over like this, and all of a sudden you discover that you have about 3 pounds of very heavy matter which is weighing you down. Obviously, this can cause problems in your back, it can cause pain in your neck, and if you don't know how to sit, then it becomes terribly painful. I suggest that if you ever want to learn, you sit down, if you really want to do it well, you sit down and invest in a proper table that holds it at an angle, in a proper chair that keeps your lower back straight, and then it becomes much easier to do. Number 3 is the cloth. I bet you guys don't know much about cloth, but let me tell you, it's kind of scary. When you want to write, you have to have the proper writing surface. If you buy cloth that's just too rough, it's like writing on sandpaper, and quickly enough, your kulmus gets worn out, and the writing just looks terrible. On the other hand, it can be so slippery smooth that if you try and write on it, it just goes zoop, and the ink goes all over the place, and it's a mess. It has to be something in between the ice skating rink and between the rough, gravelly area. That's the cloth. Number 4 is that you have to have control of the external factors of writing. In addition to what I mentioned before, there's heat, there's moisture in the air, which terribly affects the writing. Right? If it's too dry in the room, then your cloth shrivels up and it becomes very difficult to write on. If there's not enough moisture in the room, the ink dries on the pen, and then you try writing and it just doesn't come out, and then the letters look awful. What are you supposed to do? Second to last, number 5 is you have to have lots of patience. You sit there for hours and you write and you write and you write and you write. It roughly takes me, after many, many years of writing, between 2.5 to 3 hours to write a proper mezuzah. And you do that day in and day out and day in and day out. You have to have lots of patience in order to overcome the day-to-day and learn slowly but surely how to improve your hand-eye coordination in order to write properly. But lastly and most importantly is Yirat Shamayim, fear of heaven. At the end of the day, the mezuzah is not just a picture that you put on the wall. It's not a bunch of letters. It's not a bunch of words. It's one of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, which we have to fulfill when we are blessed with having a domicile, with having a house. When we have a house, we have a mitzvah to put on each and every door, except for the bathrooms and maybe the walk-in closets. There are a couple of places which you don't need, but on almost every doorway in the house, you have to have on the right side of the doorpost, roughly about 2/3 of the way up from the floor, you have to have a mezuzah. And it's incredibly important that you buy it from somebody who knows what he's doing. Because if you buy a beautiful mezuzah, it's gorgeous. You look at it, it looks like it was made by a laser printer. Well, sometimes it could be. But in addition to that, if the sofer doesn't know what he's doing, all he has to do is correct one thing in the wrong way, and the entire mezuzah is absolutely worthless. It's like putting the newspaper on your door. So therefore, the most important thing is Yirat Shamayim. You have to be able to know that the sofer who is writing wants you to fulfill that mitzvah and will do anything in order to help you do so. I have a drawer at home which I have full of mezuzahs and tefillin, which something happened to which and became puzzle. And what am I supposed to do? No matter how many hours I invested in it, it's time to start over. In summary, I would like to say that what did I learn during my adventure in Safras? First and foremost, I learned that I entered with lots of preconceived notions, and that I found quickly were incredibly wrong. Second of all, I had to face up what were the things that I needed to learn, what were the skills I needed to acquire in order to overcome those problems if I wanted to work properly as a sofer. Lastly, I had to apply myself, and apply myself, and apply myself. This adventure taught me a great lesson for life. You make mistakes. If you want to do well, face up to the problems that you have to assert yourself, invest yourself, and God willing, you will become an excellent sofer